Welcome back to our final episode of this season of TVGP's Critical Misses. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpier.
Hi. Can we potentially write down a underwhelming season so
Yeah,
far?
potentially a season of not the highest of highs that maybe we were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this one's a little bit different. We're going to be watching 2013's, the important one, 2013's What If, not the other years, because there's like 4 other movies that are all named
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say. I didn't realize we were doing a Marvel animated series for our rom-com season.
Yeah, God, heaven help us. In some areas of the world, this movie is also known as the F word. 2013's the F word. Um,
So in the rest of the world, not America, is
yeah, not
where that's known as
puritanical
that?
America. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Um, so this was another movie that people recommended and said, like, hey, you should go watch this. I put this on this list for one reason and one reason alone, and it's because it stars Daniel
Okay.
Radcliffe. So
Okay.
I was like,
A a person who I think is a much better actor than people give him credit for, I will
yeah,
say.
I will agree with that.
Um, obviously, he is known for those books,
Mm-hmm.
the Wizard School books, we'll say,
Yep.
the movie adaptations of those. Everything I've seen him, and I haven't seen him in a lot that's not those,
Mm-hmm.
but everything that I've seen him in, apart from those, he's been phenomenal in.
Yep.
Um, in fact, I'm so glad because I'm pretty sure production meeting note. I'm pretty sure we have horns on the list somewhere, which is
It's somewhere. Yeah, it's maybe like
that's
books
the
and movie season.
yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in that. I think he's amazing in that.
Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, I've
From
read that
hearing,
book and haven't seen the movie.
I've done both, so I'm very
Okay.
curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
But no, like I think he's wildly underrated
Mm-hmm.
as an actor, and I love the fact that he became one of those performers that was just immediately went against cast kind of thing.
Yep. Like I'm just gonna
Like
make some
where he
cool
was,
stuff I want to make.
yeah, like, oh, you know me from those movies. Here you go. Let me just do a stage performance where I ride a horse naked kind of thing.
Right. Who's gonna tell me
Like,
no at this point? I have more money than God.
like the
Yep.
fact that he just leaned into that, I'm just gonna do whatever I feel like doing, is just chef's kiss to him kind of thing. And also seeing him be so humble about that origin. So he's like, yeah,
Exactly.
it was a great opportunity that allowed me to do a lot of things, and now I get to do pretty much what I want.
I get to do whatever the hell I want in life. So
If
there you
you
go.
haven't seen him, I'm torn on the show, but if you haven't seen him, he did the Hot One show during COVID times, and
Mm.
it's a genuinely warm, no pun intended, interview because he's like in his house and it's like clearly just like his kitchen cabinets behind him and he's doing
Mm-hmm.
it over Skype and he's just like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, you know?
That's great. Yeah, like I agree with all of that, and I thought the idea that I had never heard of this movie at all, and the idea of him being in
Hmm.
either a romance or a romantic comedy movie, I was like, you know what? That seems like a movie I need to watch. And that seems
Yeah.
like, even if it's not good, I feel like he'll probably have an interesting or a good performance either way. Um, so I think it sounds like something that on paper is worth a watch. Um,
Yeah.
I
And he,
good.
like, one of the positives about the Wizard School movies was seeing the older generation teaching the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he talks a lot, like Daniel Radcliffe talks a lot about his experiences on set, literally just being around Gary Oldman and like seeing him perform and
Right.
performing with him and talking to him about the craft. It's like, good, this is how
Yeah.
it should go.
Yep.
We
It's
talked about this
also
with Dune.
that's right. It's also really interesting in this too, where it's like this movie starring Daniel Radcliffe, you know him, and also Adam Driver. It's a lot of like, here's a bunch of people that are starring in this, and also Adam Driver. It's like, okay, Sure. I like
Okay,
Adam
now
Driver.
I've only seen him in one thing, but I respect the dude like to infinite like
Is the one thing
degrees.
Star
Like,
Wars?
yes, the one
Okay.
thing is Star Wars,
Okay.
and he nailed that petty emo man-child kind of performance really well.
Mm-hmm.
But then hearing about how he's a former Marine and how he basically started a charity to do performing arts for soldiers kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing was just like, okay, now you have my respect.
What else have I seen him in? I saw him in This Is Where I Leave You, which is like one of my favorite ensemble cast kind of sad movies. Has a really great performance by Timothy Oliphant in that in a much different role. If anyone hasn't seen that, I haven't found a season for us to put it
Oh,
on
dude,
this
I already
show.
have the season for it. We know
Mm,
the season for
what's that?
it. Actors against cast, like
Okay.
where they're performing something that is not what you'd expect them to perform.
There you go.
Collateral is in there, the Tom Cruise movie, because
Oh,
he plays
man.
the villain
I
of that
remember
movie.
liking Collateral a lot. I was thinking about that the other day. Of like, man, I remember liking Collateral a lot. I don't know if it holds up.
I love that movie.
We'll figure out
It's
in
not
some
a
season.
fantastic movie, but I
Yeah.
love that movie. It's also a very nihilistic movie, one might
Hmm.
say.
I
I was
feel
struggling
like
to find the word nihilistic in my brain there for a second.
I feel like that movie, Collateral of any movie, I would probably appreciate a lot more now, other than when I saw it. I'm not sure
Uh-huh.
why, but I just kind of have a sense about it. Um, all right. I think that's all I got for this. Are you ready to go watch the film?
Yeah, because I don't know a thing about it. I don't know plots. I don't know the structure. I mean, is the name a hint to the plot? Like, is that something I should be thinking about? Um. Now I'm nervous.
Well, let's go allay your
Hold on.
fears.
Hold on. Hold on.
Uh,
Hold on. No, I need to explain why I'm nervous.
okay.
I very rarely pull up an IMDb before we do the thing, but I
Uh-oh.
pull it up in advance for next week.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to hide it from myself,
Right.
what the story is. I scroll down to the more like this section because that's not going to spoil anything for me, right?
Sure.
One of the things in there is the spectacular now.
Okay. I don't know that.
I know you don't know it. I know it because it is the movie that I watched that completely put me off Miles Teller forever as a
Ah, that
performer.
movie. Gotcha.
It's that movie.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
In TVGP lore, that's the beginning of your
Hatred
distaste
for
for
Miles
Miles
Teller?
Teller. Yeah.
Yes. 1000%.
Okay.
So now I'm nervous.
Yeah, hopefully not thematically similar.
Fingers crossed, dude.
Yeah.
But I watch anything with Daniel Radcliffe in. I watch anything with Adam Driver in. So I'm more than happy to just chill out and see. I don't even know who the female leads are. I'm assuming they're
Yeah, I have
female
no idea.
leads because this is not the non-heteronormative
That's right.
season.
That's
So
a
it's
different
probably
romantic
female
comedy season.
leads.
Yeah. All right, let's go watch the film.
Yep.
All right, we're back. Moon, before we start recording, says he has a hot take. I'm gonna give the mic over to Moon.
Yes. My hot take is this what if the Garden State for the early 2010s?
Oh no. I mean, it might be trying to be potentially.
I'm not gonna lie. At the time, I loved Garden State. I think Garden State was a fantastic movie that had some genuine influences on me as a person.
Absolutely.
I don't know how I feel about it now because I haven't seen it in a while.
Right.
I'm just saying, will they, won't they, friends, not friends,
Mm-hmm.
relationship, not relationship movie filled with a bunch of indie music?
Right.
Kind of feels a little bit like Garden State.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, I hate knowing as much as I know about the filming industry because the two places this takes place in is Vancouver and Dublin, both of which have huge discounts for filming stuff there. So,
Ah, there you go.
yep.
How coincidental.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we watched
That's going to haunt you now, by the way,
pretty
for the
much.
rest of this recording.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so we watched What If / the F Word. I I have a big problem. I have two big problems with this movie. One is I think I am tired of the gross best friend who's giving the worst advice of just like, you know what you need to do, eyebrow waggle. It's like,
Okay, so
shut up,
we're
Adam
talking about
Driver.
Kylo Ren. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I think.
So here is the worst part, though.
Uh-huh.
He gives horrible advice 99% of the time, 94% of the time.
Right.
And then 6% of the time, it's genuinely good advice.
Right. It's just like mired in so much bad stuff. And it's tough too because I know it's a trope of the genre. So like I don't hate the trope because I think a lot of times it does work because you need a character to bring this like starry-eyed, hopeless romantic back down to earth to be like, if you want to date this woman, tell her you want to date her. And it's just like, but they say it in the grossest way. Adam Driver's a great actor too.
Yes.
I don't know if this is like a top performance, but he does pretty well.
I think he does really good in this, to be honest. Like, I really like his character because I think one of the things they do against the tropes for this is he finds somebody at the same time.
Yes.
And it just so happens that he finds the person for him, kind of thing.
They have like a whirlwind romance. They get married suddenly while like the two main characters are just taking forever to figure out their feelings and admit them. That's true.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a fun counterpoint on the Daniel Radcliffe side of things is his side of things. So it's like, yeah, I found this person. We're like, we're just messed up, but we're both messed up in the very similar way. Like that is our own particular kind of messed up, and they both perform it really well. I'm trying to find her name, but the one who he ends up with, his
Zoe
soon-to-be wife,
Chantry.
No, Nicole.
Oh,
played by Mackenzie Davis.
Nicole.
Who,
yeah,
is everything I've ever seen her in. She nails.
She does a great job in this one.
Well, yes, for those of you who don't know, she's in Blade Runner 2049. Have you seen that, Boston?
I have not.
Okay, she's in that. She's incredible in that. More importantly, she plays Yorkie in the Black Mirror episode that everybody knows.
Okay.
The virtual reality consciousness AI.
I forget what that one's called.
But you know which one I'm talking about. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yes, she's the main character in that. And she's the lead in Terminator Dark Fate, whatever the most recent one is.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And by the way, she's also incredible in that too.
Dang, she's everywhere.
In case you weren't sure.
Yeah.
She's really good. Like, genuinely a fantastic performer who probably deserves more.
Yeah.
El Tropico, El San Janeiro.
Oh, San Junipero?
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
She's Yorkie in that episode. She's great.
My other big sticking point of this is, I'm going to start with a positive and end with a negative. Positive is, I really like that they let Daniel Radcliffe keep his accent. Most of these movies are like, hello, it's me, American Daniel Radcliffe. You can call me Dan. It's like, nope, I don't like
Simon Pegg and Band of Brothers. Yeah.
Right. It's just like, that is not your voice. That is not, you know, you can do that for Superman maybe, but like, this is a romantic comedy. Like, you can just keep your regular voice, please. One of my favorite comedic actors is in this movie, Rafe Spall. He plays Ben, who's Chantry's boyfriend that falls out of a window.
That was Rafe Spall. Are you serious? What? I don't recognize him without the facial hair.
He's so British. No idea. And they don't have him have his accent. He is in one of my favorite comedies called I Give It a Year. It's a comedy that only I love, and I truly respect it. You should not go see it. It's not super great. He's wonderful in it, playing across Rose Byrne, I think, is his romantic lead in that. It's one of the most awkward movies on the face of this planet. It's so good. And he's so British in it, and he's so good. And watching him be in this movie of like, hello, my name is Ben. I'm from Canada. I work with the UN. I was like, no. Mm-mm.
Uh-huh.
I shouldn't. That doesn't. That's not right. Like, I don't like
Mm.
that. So, but of
Rafe
course,
Spall,
he's great as usual.
uh, yeah, also really famous. For those of you who don't know, he is the kid in Shaun of the Dead who says, "You've got red on you" to Shaun at the start of that
That's
movie.
right. That's right.
That is Rafe Spall as a very young up and coming actor.
Yeah, he's
Um,
DC Cartwright in Hot
yeah, he's
Fuzz.
one of the two Andys in Hot Fuzz
Yep.
too. Yeah, looks completely different between those two films.
Yep. Ah, he's really good. Yeah. So that was a little
Oh,
bit like I really love that they just let Daniel Radcliffe use his real voice in this, which is exactly what you do. But then to have Rafe Spall over here being like, "Hello, it's me." Ugh, a bummer. Um, I do really like. I have a lot of conflicting thoughts about this movie overall. I
me too.
This is
Um,
one of those romantic comedies that the chemistry between the two leads is so palpable through the
yes.
majority of the movie. Like, that's easily one of the high notes. Is like these two people are so
Hmm.
good on film the entire time.
Yeah, and it's not because he's British, but Daniel Radcliffe does exude that charming, like British energy that you get when
Yes.
specifically in rom coms when the lead is a British person.
Yep.
Um, you get that thing where they're just so charming. It's the Hugh Grant effect.
Yes. Nervous,
Uh,
anxious, charming, sweet.
a little like says the wrong thing or says completely disgusting things, but they sound sweet because
Right.
he's saying it in a British accent.
Right. A little
You know,
terrible. Like,
yeah. He exudes that kind of energy, which I really appreciate. That just it rains off. Like, let's just go. Let's see
mhm.
what he can do, kind of thing. And you're right. Like his chemistry with the young lady who is the other person.
Zoe Kazan. I
Thank
don't
you.
know if I've seen her in anything else. Let me look.
I definitely haven't. But they just have this click
Yep.
immediately. And it's really cool.
Yeah, I like the two of them playing off of each other for the whole movie is so good. Like, there's such a great scene late in the movie where um Wallace says to Chantry, like, I'm gonna go back to medical school. Like, this is the thing I should be doing. I gotta stop messing around. And she's like, it's unfortunate that you're gonna have to like really close your heart and just be like a real monster like most doctors are. And they go
Yeah,
into this
just
extended
view
thing
people
about
as
like,
meat sacks.
yeah, like they go into this extended thing about like, well, that's why the homeless are there, so we can like experiment on them, and they're not really people. And I was like, this is really
It's
like,
super dark. Like it has
yeah,
such dark undertones. Like, and it's one of those again. It's the whole reason behind the T-shirt that we sell with the "I'll never be anything"
mm-hmm.
special.
Merch.tvgp.tv.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The whole reason that exists is because I love darkness with like buried in light-hearted jovialness. Because then
right,
when the darkness hits, it's like, oh, that's so
right,
much darker than I thought it was because you've delivered it in such a charming and
right.
joyous manner.
And like that to me is easily one of the strengths of this movie. Is the uh Daniel and Zoe said that they improvised so many of those one-on-one scenes in this movie, and it feels like that. When
Mhm.
improvisation goes wrong in a movie, it feels like the wheels are falling off as this car is like screeching down this cliff. But in this one, it feels like they're people that kind of click with each other naturally off screen, and they had
Yeah.
this really natural chemistry that you don't get in a lot of these movies. I think that made this movie so much better. Without that, I think most of it would have felt really soulless.
Hmm.
And I think that helped the movie overall because this movie is kind of trapped, I think, a little bit, because that stuff is so good, and they tried to do the like early 2010s, late 2000s like slapstick stuff where like Ben suddenly falls out of a window Like the him getting the pepper juice in his eyes, that's kind of funny, and he like turns into a real baby about it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of funny, and like Wallace is getting the stuff to clean out his eyes, and he gets like distracted in the bathroom, and I'm like, this is kind of funny. And then like he opens the door and Ben falls out the window, and I'm like, you took it too far. Like it's a little bit you went one step too far in a scene that was already pretty good. Um, and the movie's stuck there because like a lot of the Adam Driver stuff is just like, yeah, I'm gross. I mean, my gross wife are being
I think
gross.
at
We
this,
love each other though.
the funny thing is, I think his character evolution throughout the course of the movie is, I think, super impressive because
Mm-hmm.
he's literally that dude at the start of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the movie, he's like, he's married, they're expecting a kid,
Right.
they're having common, rational conversations, like they're giving good advice too.
Right.
Like even at the surprise wedding scene where Wallace gets to go in and speak to Nicole,
Mm-hmm.
what because she's a little nervous. Nicole starts like giving him decent advice about the situation that he's in.
It's true. Yeah. And even when they do the sealing the clothes at the beach scene that backfires spectacularly, like he does
Uh-huh.
genuinely say like, I'm sorry, I thought that would help things and it didn't. Like I made things worse, and that's my fault.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I
It's a difficult movie, and you keep saying the fact that the movie is trapped just literally makes me think of Garden State.
right.
Because I genuinely think the chemistry between Zach Braff and Natalie Portman in that movie is palpable too. I
Mhm.
genuinely do.
Yeah.
And they both have their own issues to sort out. They both have their own problems. And everything where it's not those two, I feel is just kind of eh.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this movie suffers from that too, and I think it's sort of hard because I don't think you get enough stuff between Zoe and Ben because they're Zoe's a character is kind of like, well, I'm with Ben and like I really love him and we have a pretty good life, but I think because the chemistry between the two main leads is so solid, it's sort of like you should be with that dude. You should be with Daniel Radcliffe.
Uh-huh.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Like I don't. It's a little bit tough that.
I mean, that's the funny thing is like, because like sometimes movies like these come down to a couple of moments, a couple of
Right.
like a couple of scenes, reuniting with people. Stella, how Stella got her groove back. We both agree that that ending is better if they go their own separate ways.
Right. The heartbreak ending.
Like, yeah, we think that that is potentially a better ending, especially if it loops back around and they see each other again in the future, or whatever.
Right.
Um, we the Game of Thrones moment from Long Shot,
Mm-hmm.
where they start watching Game of Thrones together because that's all of the latest like in pop culture kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
that Charlize Theron has to watch because she wants to be whatever she is. The speech that she gives in that movie where it's like, look, I don't care if you've seen this. I don't care that they leaked that. I don't care about this. This is who I am. This is who I'm with. That's a good speech. That's a good
Yes.
moment in that movie that's full of pretty good moments, if I'm completely honest. Um, I think this movie has, I think, three solid moments in it. One,
Okay.
you already mentioned, I think the beach scene and the reaction to the beach scene, I think, is pretty good. When the two idiots steal their clothes. I
Mm-hmm.
think the semi-argument that erupts between Wallace and Zoe at that time, I think it's a good scene because it's charged in many
Yes.
different ways. Um,
Especially when your expectations as a viewer is like, this is when the romance happens. Like they're forcefully being put together. Of course, the sparks are going to fly, and it's like, well, they did, but they got into a fight over it. Like
yeah,
there's
they
some
set a
different
fire is
sparks.
what happened.
Yeah, like it's not the intended outcome.
Yeah, I think that's a good scene. I like the one at the start where it introduces the idea of seeing the animations like in real
Yeah.
world kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's right after they've met for the first time. He goes home, drops her off at her home, then he's sitting on the roof with her number in his hand,
Mm-hmm.
and like he plays the conversation back in his head, and it's like, "Oh, me and my boyfriend," and then he just lets the thing go.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's a pretty powerful scene. That one I think is especially good because it's got no real words to it, no dialogue, no
Mm.
explanation. The one that steals it for me is the speech. His wedding speech is
Yeah.
incredible. Like in a rom com, if you have a wedding, like the wedding speech has to be something special. Like
Yeah.
it has to be something special. Like it's kind of the whole point. Unless you're going to deliberately go against it and make it absolutely horrific for no reason other than that you can, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he delivers a really, really heartfelt speech. Like he talks about that moment, he talks about that night, and the fact that he's constantly making veiled references to Zoe during the whole thing. Like,
Right.
oh, I remember the night they first met.
Mm-hmm.
Big pause, because it's the same. He doesn't say it, but we know it's
Right.
because it's the same night he met her. Like that's the whole thing. And the fact that he said the delivery of the line, like for making the hard part look easy,
Mm-hmm.
is a real gut punch. Like
Yep.
especially if you're in his situation, and then the fact that he's like, yeah, one day they'll have kids and end the world. You know.
Yep.
And my favorite part about that is they loop it back when he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go back to when they're having the post huge argument. He flew to Berlin and then not Berlin, Dublin, but then shouldn't have, and come back and have breakfast and everything else. Um, I think it's funny that at that point she announces that she's pregnant. Nicole is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a long shot and it shows them all having a big hug. And as it cuts away, you can hear him say, "See, look, I was right about the zombie apocalypse because it's already started." And it's a really nice callback to the wedding speech like
Yep.
scene.
Oh man. Yeah. And like I think this
I
movie
think they
is
all have chemistry is the thing. Like they
yeah.
all, but it's different chemistry. Like
Right.
I like his chemistry with Kylo Ren because he's very clearly the quieter of the two. Like
Right.
he's not the outgoing one, he's the introverted of the two.
Right.
And I like the fact that Nicole just kind of leaps onto that same relationship and becomes the understanding one, but also the louder than him version.
Right. There's and like it is a pretty genuinely funny movie in kind of a lot of small ways. Like one of my favorite scenes is when uh Wallace and Chantry are in the hospital, and Wallace is like, I'm just gonna buy the tuna sandwich from this vending machine. And like Wallace's ex-girlfriend is like, I mean, I can recommend a lot of stuff here. Just like don't get the tuna sandwich. It sends so many people to the hospital. There's like the city keeps getting called on this thing. I was like, that's pretty good. And like his look at the sandwich is just like, ah, crap. Like,
Hmm.
and like there's the moment later on where Chantry's friend was telling her about like um how mean Wallace was to her, about like he
That was the sister, dude. You can't say
oh
friend when that's
the
the
sister,
sister.
thank you, about like he was just
The
like
the so let's be polite. The promiscuous sister,
right.
we'll say.
Yeah, and like the moment of like her going further and further with this ludicrous story of like then he was like kicking old women and he was just laughing about it the whole time. It's just like
Shot
it was just
pops in the face.
yeah, like it started with this thing about like yeah, he really tried to like get with me. He was like kissing me and he was like being mean to me, and like Chantry kind of believed it for a minute, and then she kept getting more and more ludicrous, and
More,
it's like
more
okay.
extreme. It's like a kid telling a lie, where it's
Right.
just like the first part of it is slightly believable,
Right.
but then the unicorns start coming in through the window, and you're like, "Come on now."
Exactly. It's like, all right, come on. The unicorns didn't eat the last of the chocolate cereal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, I this is one I've been struggling to figure out how to talk about because I liked it just fine,
I like
but
this one a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
really,
Like, yeah, I mean, in my case, that could also be because I was watching this while doing other things at the same time,
mm-hmm.
so I wasn't 100% absorbed into it. So maybe that could be why I'm not as standoffish on it in this kind of
Right.
situation.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit cooler on this one because I think, like we said, the obvious bright spot here in this movie is the chemistry between the two of them. That's just outstanding and really undeniable. But a lot of the rest of the movie felt kind of fine. Like it wasn't soulless, it wasn't bad, but so much of it felt kind of by the numbers that uh I feel like the chemistry that we love so much couldn't really elevate it above and beyond, like make it better than the sum of its parts, really, which is fine. It doesn't have to be the
Hmm.
best romantic comedy I've ever seen, um, but I just kind of wish more of it was a little bit better overall.
I can understand that.
Yeah, but like,
So,
oh, go ahead.
has this been a very whelming season of the rom com for you?
Yeah, I think that's been my thing. I feel like this genre especially is really tough, because I think so many of these movies are going to come down to what you personally find romantic or attractive, or like how much of a hopeless romantic you are, how much you can deal with uh, communication being the crux of the problem in the majority of these movies, that sort of thing. Um,
Mhm.
and like a lot of the movies we watched this season were just kind of, we're gonna roll the dice on a bunch of movies we haven't heard of before, and maybe we'll find a great performance or two like we saw in top five, but kind of felt cold about some of the rest of it. Or we have a very bright shining spot in this movie, but kind of the rest of it was maybe good to almost great. um I wish we had something like we had in the previous romantic comedy season, where it's like, this is the like, this is long shot, this is the obvious first place one. For me, Night and Day is probably the outstanding one here, which is kind of funny because
Oh
it's
no, no. No,
mm,
no. It's end of the season. That means you get to very quickly on the fly. Let's rank these babies.
yeah, that would help if I would remember the five movies we did during
Yeah.
during this one. Let me pull up the notes here. um I think number five for me is probably top five.
You think that's dead last?
Yeah, I think so. I liked some stuff in the other ones. Top five for me was like, Rosario Dawson is the strong suit here, and a lot of the rest of it was uneven.
Always be my maybe. Number five with a bullet, dude.
That's probably the one that fights with me for fourth and fifth. Is Always Be My Maybe is just so rough. Like, most of it is just either too improv or too overwritten or too not funny or too topical, or like Keanu Reeves
Uh-huh.
helps a little bit, but it doesn't save the movie really. Yeah,
We're not talking about Cyberpunk, dude. We're talking about Always Be My Maybe.
maybe that's my number five. That movie's rough, man.
It's rough, dude. Like, it's
Yeah,
genuinely a rough watch. Like, it
yeah.
has charming moments. It genuinely does, but the Keanu scene was a good surprise, but really awkward. Very
Be-
awkward. Like,
Best parody songs this season, though. Always Be My Maybe.
yes, definitely. What was it? The Yellow Panic, the Yellow Peril, or the
Yeah,
Yellow
Yellow.
Hello?
Yeah,
Was it?
Hello Peril, I think. When I Punched Keanu Reeves. It's a great song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a good. That is probably the best joke in that entire movie is the fact
Yes.
that the band is a joke on like old school racism, which is just
Yeah.
okay, fine.
Okay,
Um,
so if that's your number 5, what's your number 4?
top five
Okay. I that's probably my number 4 as well.
because
I
it's
don't,
recency bias, dude. You saw top five more recently, and you forgot all about the horrific awkwardness that was always be my maybe.
I think my frustration with top 5 is like I said, Rosario Dawson puts in a great performance. I think some of the improv stuff that's just like, yeah, we're rolling film on a room full of the best comedians of this era and a previous era. Like that's just going to be funny. But when the movie gets down to some of the more like written scripted stuff, I think it just kind of stumbles on itself pretty frequently.
Okay, I can understand that. That's why it's my number four.
Yeah. What about your number 3?
Juliet Naked.
Yeah.
I think it is the most heartwarming of all of these
Hmm.
movies. Like, or rather, it is the one that has the most heart. I would say.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
right. I think it feels like it was written from a place of love. Ha ha
Hmm.
ha
But
ha
up,
ha
up, but
ha.
up, up.
And it gets extra credit for the art is not for the artist speech that the dork
That
gives at that dinner.
that speech
That's the
is
best scene in the movie.
yeah.
Easy.
Also, big credit to like him meeting his hero on the beach and be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, okay, yeah, like the
What does he
real
say? Like, I'm Freddie Mercury or whatever he
yeah,
says. Like,
whatever
it's something
whatever that line is like.
ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I'm Freddie Mercury. It's like okay, that's believable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's genuinely like the reason why I love that dinner scene is because he gets put in his place, rightly so.
yeah,
And then he puts the guy in his place, again, rightly so.
yeah,
Like, art is not for the artist, it's for the people who consume it. Like, that
right,
is, it may mean something to you, but that doesn't diminish what it means to somebody else.
yeah. But
That's,
another super uneven movie,
mhm.
like so
I
many
hate
other movies this season.
the entire like museum display scene at the end. I hate that
Yeah,
entire
a lot of it
sequence.
is just rough. Yeah,
Multiple Grammy award winning. No, no, I didn't. Like
it's not me.
stupid politicians.
Yeah. What's your number 2? Feel like I probably know.
I'm torn. I'm genuinely torn on this because
Hmm.
I like if it was like the back half of Night and Day is so much less than the first half, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like the first half of Night and Day is really solid, and
Hmm.
then the back half is just like, okay, and
When when it moves
um,
from action comedy to action romance, I feel like it loses something.
yeah, and less problematic than I thought, but a problematic season overall. Like each movie
Yeah.
seems to have its problems with certain things,
Yeah.
and it's just like, okay, like 28. Juliet Naked's probably the only one that didn't.
Right.
Um,
And like Night and
and
Day, I've been struggling with the whole season because it's like not really a
it's
romantic
really fun.
comedy.
No, it's not. It's an
But it's
action
like
movie with.
yeah, it's like an action comedy movie with a bunch of smooching in it. So like, do we have the darkest dungeon
We're not gonna
conversation?
roguelike question this. We're not gonna do
Ah,
that.
curses! Almost gotcha. So like but it's such a good movie. It's like such a good Tom Cruise comedy, which is a wild idea.
He plays it so well.
Yeah, and it's not an Austin Powers movie, and he's funny in it. Like I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It's very odd.
This is the hilarious thing. Like the times I see Tom Cruise not be Tom Cruise, so not
Mhm.
Ethan Hunt,
Right,
is when he's the most hilarious or when he's the best.
right,
Because we were talking about the other day, Collateral is a hell of a movie, and he's the
right.
bad guy in that movie, and he kills it.
He's amazing in Tropic Thunder as the dude you don't realize is Tom Cruise until the end credits.
I still haven't seen that movie, Boston.
You want to talk about a problematic movie?
Oh, I'm aware that that thing has
Movie's got some
problems.
issues.
I'm aware of who Robert Downey Jr. plays in that movie.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
I don't
know,
know.
man.
Night and Day 2, What If #1 for me. I think What If I don't think it was made with the most heart, but I think it has the most heart. And
Yeah,
honestly, real relationships
it's
between
true.
all of the friends, the toxic, the both, because like it or not, you can. I almost swore you can be an d-bag to your friends, even if you don't mean to, even if you think you're doing something good.
Yeah, the best
Sometimes it's not.
intentions. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Like
I.
I think it's the realest of them all, and I think
Yes,
that gives it that extra edge.
that's what I was gonna say too. I think
Night,
that might
Night
be
and Day
my.
#2, definitely not the realest of them all, but
No, no. But I was about to say I think that's my ranking too, and I think for the same reason that um like will they won't they in films I think can be frustrating. Um and I think this felt like a really natural kind of evolution of their relationship, and there was a reason for them to have like a will they won't they relationship, and they both kind of
Mhm.
agreed to not do it for various reasons, and they communicated about it until the very end where kind of that communication fell apart. But like you said, it felt like the most
But they
real
also like
one.
correctly and incorrectly accuse each other of stuff. Like
Right.
the scene where Zoe accuses him of being a liar because he's had these feelings all along. He's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean I didn't want to be your friend. Like
Right.
being your friend has been great. It has been fun. It has been incredible. Like sometimes you can't help but feel that way about somebody that you're friends with. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just can't.
Yeah.
And then like the fact that she then is accusing him of the things that she herself is doing, where
Right.
she herself is also feeling more than she should and not willing to admit to herself that she is. Like it's a very human movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably the most human of the ones we did this season.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree. I think I'm aligned with your ranking as well. It's just I wish we had a movie like last season, which is like
A
this is number
ringer
one with
with,
the bullet. Like with
yeah.
this is we have number
Mhm.
5 with the bullet, just like last season. But like, boy, yeah.
You know,
All
the
right.
thing is, though, look at the bright side. Like, we've got so many other seasons that are non-heteronormative romantic
That's true.
comedies.
Yeah, for
Like,
our
we've got
next romantic comedy season, we'll definitely be doing.
if if you hear us talk about like just the regular old white dude, white girl rom-coms, you jump in and you make sure we do a
Yeah, smack us on the
uh
hand and say you have these other seasons. Do
no,
those.
you have other ones. You
That's right.
have a wider variety of movies to pick from than these ones.
Then a white dude smooching a white lady. Like let's get more interesting here. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm very interested in The Big Sick, which I found out
Right.
that's what that girl was in.
Yep.
Zoe Kazan, she's in The Big Sick.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the end of an uneven Critical Misses season, but they're not all.
Mhm.
They're media movies. Media we've missed, but they're not always media hits, and that's okay. Thank you
Mhm.
very much, everyone, for listening. I will see you next time. Bye.
We